What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Once again, this is Lilith from Jarrastar Gaming. Today I'm bringing you a guide for the Holy Paladin for patch 5.3. Now, not much has changed from 5.2 for the Holy Paladins, so this is basically just going to be a very overall guide on Holy Paladins for Mist of Pandaria for 5.2 and 5.3, and a little bit of just advanced techniques and things that you can do to improve your playstyle, because after all, that's why you're watching this, right? You want to be a better Holy Paladin, a better healer. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, as always, before we start our overview of talents, glyphs, gymming, stat priorities, we're going to go into the passive abilities, because these are the things we need to be thinking about while we're healing. Now, that's what a great healer does. Takes into account passive ability. The reason I don't do this for my discipline priest is because I've been playing a priest for 8 years, going on 9 in November. Same class, basically same two specs, holy and discipline. Not much has changed as far as our passive abilities, except for old talents going into passive, so I don't really have to think about it anymore. But Holy Paladin, I'm decently new to. I healed a little bit of Holy Paladin back in Dragon Soul, but not much since Mist of Pandaria. If we can get out of combat here, we'll go into it. So the first one is Daybreak, the most important one. After casting Holy Radiance, your next Holy Shock will also heal other allies within 10 yards of the target for an amount equal to 75% of the original healing done, divided equally among all targets, and this stacks up to 2 times. This is a very great ability for AoE fights. It's not an ability, sorry, it's a passive. So obviously when we're AoE healing, if we have something like a Resto Shaman healing with us, Disc Priest absorbing things, you know, what we're going to be looking for to keep our AoE healing up, we're going to Holy Radiance. After we do that Holy Radiance, you know, if we have to do 2 in a row, fine. Do it on 2 different targets. We get 2 stacks. Boom, boom. That's like massive AoE healing. And after that, we have all that Holy Power, right? We've got like 4 stacks of Holy Power. So then we can use that and hit a nice, big, powerful, juicy Light of Dawn. Burst heal the raid up as long as they're stacked up. Crazy, crazy healing right there. Alright, so moving on to Infusion of Light, which is our only other real important passive ability. Our Holy Shock critical hits reduce the cast time of our next Holy Light, Divine Light, or Holy Radiance spells by 1.5 seconds. This is nice because every time we're critting with our Holy Shock, which we should be using it on cooldown, it's the bread and butter of the spec, we're going to be getting those reduced cast times on Divine Light, Holy Light, and Holy Radiance, and that'll be very nice, very, very nice. So let's see, moving on, I just want to talk about, you know, those are very important things to take into account as a healer, because once again, those are the things that a good healer does. They think about what they have in their arsenal before they get started healing, and they know, okay, well, if I'm AoE healing, I know if I can Holy Radiance here and then I Holy Shock, as long as people are, you know, semi stacked up, I'll be doing a decent amount of AoE healing, and after that I can throw out a nice juicy Light of Dawn and be on my way. So once again, the bread and butter of the spec is Holy Shock. I recommend if you don't have a weak aura for it, you make one. You're gonna need it. It's on cooldown. 5 seconds. 5 seconds, you better be hitting it as soon as you can. Obviously, you're not going to be able to hit it 100% of the time as soon as it comes up. You know, you're moving place to place, you know, etc., etc. You're just going to make sure you keep that as close to on cooldown as you can at all times. It is our primary holy power generator. It does a wicked amount of healing. It's just very, very good. Alright, so our AoE healing spell again is Holy Radiance, and it'll heal our target for a decent amount, and then it'll heal all the targets within that for 10 yards. Let's see if we can open this up. I'm going to give you guys a little mouse over here. Holy Radiance, of course, my UI is broken. That's great. Alright, let's go down here. So, imbues a friendly target with radiant energy, healing that target for XXXXX and all allies within 10 yards for 50% of that amount. And it also grants us a charge of holy power, and it diminishes after 6. So again, this generates a charge of holy power. And when we have our Daybreak passive, which we just went over, it causes our next Holy Shock to have a decent AoE splash, which is always nice, like I was talking about. That's why if you didn't look at your passive abilities before you started, Holy Radiancing everybody, you wouldn't have known that now, would you? Didn't think so. Now, I mean, unfortunately, it does have a very short range. So, like, let's go to Heroic Ragnaros, lol, phase 1. Let's Holy Radiance. No, don't do that. We'll go into that in a little bit about healing style. Not going to want to do that, okay, guys? Just your friendly tip of the day. So we have a few holy power generators. Now, our primary one, obviously, is Holy Shock. It's the bread and butter of the Holy Paladin. After that, we also have Crusader Strike. We have Holy Radiance. And then we have Flash of Light if it's on our beacon target. So if I have beacon on myself and I Flash of Light myself, look at my holy power, I get 1 holy power. Moving on, Divine Light also if it's on our beacon target. I'm beaconed, gonna Divine Light, and boom, now I have 2 charges of my holy power. There's a very advanced technique with our beacon though. Since we do have the glyph now, it's no longer on a global, and you don't have to, every 3 seconds you can do it, and it's not going to affect the global or any of your other casts. So if your other tank doesn't need healing, or your primary tank doesn't need healing, it's kind of be nice to throw it on other targets, right? Because, we want to get as much out of it as we can. And also, if it would make a lot of sense if we can swap it, who does need the splash, to a person that does need the healing from beacon or divine light, and we get the extra charge of holy power. But until you're like really comfortable with everything else, just don't really worry about that. That is an advanced technique. Again, that's called beacon swapping. YOLO. All right, here we go. So the seals we're going to be using, we have 3 seals. Seal of Insight fills us with Holy Light, blah, blah, blah. Spell speed 10%, healing by 5%, and 4% base mana when we melee. Seal of Righteous, Holy Light, melee attacks you 9% weapon damage with all targets, and then Seal of Truth, 12% additional damage is holy and applies to the target. So the one we're going to be using 100% of the time, guys, is our Seal of Insight. Why would we not want spell haste, healing, and some small mana when we're using our Eternal Flame while we're Crusader striking, right? It also does, so a little bit of healing, a little bit of mana. So let's move on to the cooldowns portion of this. Now, the first cooldown that a Holy Paladin has is Avenging Wrath. Increases all damage and healing done by 20%. It's probably the most overpowered Paladin cooldown that we have. And if we do couple this with our Divine Favor or any other cooldown for that matter that we have available, that's gonna be crazy. That's when we're really gonna be hitting out the burst healing. You're talking about 6th Rampage for Magara, 5th Rampage, I guess, because the 6-1 people are like, let me pop all my cooldowns. Yeah. Alright, so it's very, very powerful for throughput, and you should be using it when you feel like you need to adjust your healing to push out a little bit more burst healing, etc., etc. Now, the next one we have is Divine Favor. Divine Favor increases our spellcasting haste by 20% and our spell critical strike chance by 20% for 20 seconds. Once again, this is very, very useful if we use this with our Holy Shock, because we know through the passive ability Infusion of Light, this will make us get more Infusion of Light procs, right? So we're popping our Divine Favor, and we'd pop a Divine Light or something. I don't think it's gonna proc for me anytime today. Anyway, so you can see whatever, we'll get those Infusion of Light procs coming up. So basically, Divine Favor, pretty similar. It's pretty similar to Avenging Wrath. They're both on a 3-minute cooldown, and it makes really good cooldown. It really does, but it's really strong, and it shines in AoE healing. It's not that useful for tank healing. I mean, I guess you could if it's just like the tank's getting beat on like a truck, but you're really going to be wanting to save this for things like AoE healing. in AoE healing situations, because you'll be able to pop off those holy radiances and then use your daybreak, and then look at you topping those healing meters, all fancy and stuff. So the next cooldown we have is actually really fun. Guardian of the Ancient Kings. Summons a Guardian of the Ancient Kings to help you heal for 30 seconds. The Guardian will heal the target of your next 5 single target heals and a nearby friendly target for 10% of the amount healed. It increases your haste every time you heal. Now, this is really the savior of like when we need a raid save, when the raid's about to die, and you know you need that a little bit extra healing. You just can't get there. You can't get there. Pop your Guardian, because when you're casting your single target, it's going to be healed for an additional 100%, and then all targets within 10 yards are going to be healed for 10% of that amount. It's really going to be really powerful, but the thing is, it only has 5 charges, right? So we're going to be wanting to probably switch our beacon to a target that needs it. Then we're going to probably hit our Divine Light 5 times to get the most out of this spell. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a little bit mana inefficient, of course, but if we're trying to save the raid, that's what we're going to want to be doing, getting all that AoE healing, and it's just crazy. Guardian's very, very nice, but if you do have 3 Holy Power, you can also use your Word of Glory or Eternal Flame as well if you need to. Now the next cooldown is Hand of Sacrifice. If I can find it, there it is. Places a hand on the party or raid member, transfers 30% of the damage to the Paladin. So it's our tank cooldown, and yeah, it transfers 30% of the damage, and it's very, very nice because it's 2-minute recharge, and with our Clemency talent we can get 2 of them, right? So it's like having 2 powerful pain subs, because pain sub isn't even that much, right? But the thing is, it transfers to us. So now what we're gonna be doing here, again, this is advanced play. If we're gonna pop a Hand of Sacrifice on the target, you can't sack yourself, duh. You're gonna Hand of Sacrifice. You can also use your Divine Shield on yourself, right? Or your Divine Protection to reduce the damage taken if the tank's about to take a huge, like, Impale, Heroic Shafir. You know, Impale is coming, or Dread Thrash, whatever, and you sack the tank and then you Divine Protection yourself. That'll reduce 40% of the damage, or if you Divine Shield yourself, that'll reduce all of the damage. You won't take any of that damage at all. Now, moving on to Lay of Hands. Obviously, Lay on Hands. It's our oh shit button, basically. It's 10-minute cooldown if we glyph it, which, I mean, yeah, not really much to say. It pretty much is just your, oh, somebody's at like 1.5%, let me Lay on Hands them. It's important to note, though, that it also gives us 10% of our maximum mana with the Glyph of Divinity, which we'll be going over in a minute. And just make sure, though, when you're using these bops and these things, make sure you're watching your forbearance. You don't want to accidentally try and Lay on Hands somebody and it just Lay on Hands as yourself. It's not going to be very useful if you're at 100% HP and you Lay on Hands yourself. It's kind of a wasted cooldown there. Again, Divine Protection, 40% damage reduction, and we can glyph it to also reduce the magic damage and physical damage for magic fights, you know. Can't think of any on the top of my head. Darumu, I guess, eyesores. I think it's magical damage. It may be physical. I don't know. You know, pop Divine Protection, and you're just winning. That's just how we do it, Paladin. Next one is Devotion Aura. Used to be called Aura Mastery. No idea why they changed it. Blizzard's just retarded. So it's a raid-wide 20% magic reduction for 6 seconds, and it's really powerful for magic damage, and it's very useful for physical damage. So don't be going, Blade Lord, who has a cooldown for Unseen Strike? I do, I'm a Paladin, I can Diva Aura. Yeah, you're just gonna sound retarded. Don't do that. It's physical damage. Make sure you know the damage is physical or magical before you're trying to use Devotion Aura, or you're just going to waste a 20% magic damage reduction that's on a 3-minute cooldown, and it only lasts for 6 seconds. You're going to look retarded, and you're probably going to get kicked from the raid at that point. So next one is Divine Shield. This is our personal one. Basically, protects us all from all damage and spells for 8 seconds, and the damage reduction doesn't really matter to us. And yeah, so again, Hand of Sacrifice, Divine Shield, taking nothing. None of that damage at all. We're winning. That's how we do it. And then, of course, Bop. We have our... Again, they changed the talent, or the freaking spell name. Hand of Protection. Places a hand on a party or raid member, protecting them from all physical attacks for 10 seconds. But during that time, they cannot move or they cannot attack or use physical abilities. If you're going to be using this, try and use a Hand of Freedom afterwards if they need it. Otherwise, you're going to be, running around retardedly if it's on a melee or hunter. And hopefully you can save them. Very useful for fights like Spirit Kings. People get pinned arrows. You can bop them, get them right out of it. Blade Lord, Tyak, of course. The Wind Step debuff. Bop them. Debuff goes completely away. So that's very nice. Alright, next we're going to move on to mana management. Holy Paladins have nothing for mana management but one spell. Divine Plea. Now, there's a couple of different things you can do with Divine Plea. For 9 seconds, you can gain 12% of your total mana, but your healing is reduced by 50%. Or, situationally, there's a glyph called Glyph of Divine Plea that casts it for 5 seconds, but it restores 20% of your mana. Overall, you're going to be losing a little bit of throughput using the glyph, but we'll go into the glyphs in just a minute. But for now, just know that it's your primary mana gainer, returner. Obviously, you have your Potion of Focus, etc. And if you're a Blood Elf, you should be using your Arcane Torrent. It's only 2% now. Kind of sucks, but, we do what we do. Alright, let's move on to the cool stuff, talents here. So, for level 15, we have our movement talents. Alright, so, basically, I think you should probably be using Pursuit of Justice for some fights, because it's really easy to use, and it stacks up when you have Holy Power, which, holy shock, hey, guess what, I have Holy Power. You should be getting a 5% movement speed at all times, basically, plus to the 15%, so you'll be moving decently fast. However, once you get a little more used to what you're doing, and you can actually think ahead, what's coming, what's happening next, what's going to hit in 20 seconds, what's going to hit in 10 seconds. Prepare, get your Eternal Flames out, all of that good stuff, and then you can Speed of Light, get to where you need to go, and stay there. Speed of Light's very, very useful. I love Speed of Light a lot. Long Arm of the Law isn't that great, because we don't really use Judgment at all. We used to be using it, like, all the time in Dragon Soul. It's complete shit now, doesn't do anything for us at all. Level 30 doesn't matter, it's just CCs. Level 45, the talent of the choice is Eternal Flame. Sacred Shield is basically just an absorb, selfless healer. Again, Judgment, so you're not going to be really caring about that. Eternal Flame, though, it's a word of glory with a hot. It's a word of glory after he ate 3 batches of waffles and drank 5 monsters. That's how powerful this bad boy is. And you can do something called EF spamming, Eternal Flame spamming. Basically, you get in melee, you Crusader Strike to get Holy Power, you use your Holy Shock to get Holy Power, you can Holy Radiance if you have the mana to get your Holy Power, and then just start going to town with your Eternal Flames. We'll go into that in a little bit as well. Moving on, I choose Clemency for the level 60 talents. Level 75, moving on. Basically, these just buff our Holy Power, but Divine Purpose is really the mana conservation one, and it's really the one that I prefer, because basically we just get free spells, right? So we can get up to like 5 Light of Dawns for free, and we're winning at that point. 5 free Light of Dawns, it's very nice. Now level 90 talents is where it gets a little different, okay? Never using execution sentence. Almost no fight execution sentence. Tin Man's debate. Holy Prism, Light's Hammer. Holy Prism, basically you just throw your hammer at the boss and it does splash healing to a couple people in the raid. Light's Hammer, you throw it on the ground and it does hot. It does not do any initial healing. It does a hot for 14 seconds, and it does that hot and is very powerful. Especially, Megara, people are stacked up for I mean, I want to say G-Kun, but I use Holy Prism for that fight. I don't know. You think of any other fights, whatever. You know, Lights Hammer. 25 mans, Lights Hammer is pretty much the way to go because people are always going to be near each other. That's just the way the rooms were designed. You know, we have 15 more people than 10 mans that we have to fit in there. And people are obviously going to be stacking for the AoE damage. So I prefer Lights Hammer. But basically, that's all you need to know about your talents. I hope that kind of helped you a little bit. When we get into the gameplay, you can see it a little bit. But let's go on to Glyphs. Now, the Glyph of Divinity is basically an extra mana potion. Pretty much 10% extra mana. Again, my UI is broken, so I can't. Okay, here we go. I guess I'll screw it down. Reduces the cooldown of lay on hands by 2 minutes, but gives it 10% mana. So basically, we get to use this ability once a fight, but it's our second mana potion, right? So we're getting 10% mana. So if we're running low on mana, we can Divine Plea and Pot, and then we can sit there and lay on hands if we really need to and be up to 50, 60% mana again, rocking and rolling, getting those heals back out. Next one is Beacon of Light. The reason people take this is because you can just, it reduces the global of it, meaning it's not on the global cooldown. As you see, it's not on any other global cooldown. If I use Beacon, I can use any other spell. It's not going to sit there and wait. So again, that goes back to sitting there and putting it on different targets as we need, and using the Divine Lights and Flash of Lights, I guess, that we need to get our holy power nice and stacked up. Next one is Divine Plea. Like I said, basically you get 20% of your mana, but you have to cast for about 5 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds. Let's see, what's the other one? Glyph of the, if I can find it here. Protector of the Innocent. When you Word of Glory another target, it also heals you for 20% of the amount. Basically, it's like that old talent we used to have that every heal we did also healed us for 20%. It was something like that last expansion. You know, Holy Paladins have a very nice survivability rate. Not only can we bop ourselves, we can Divine Shield ourselves, we can salve ourselves, we can Freedom ourselves, we can lay on hands ourselves, we can also Eternal Flame ourselves and get a powerful Eternal Flame. Now when we Word of Glory somebody else, it also heals us. That's why we're using it. And then again, the minor ones don't really matter that much. As far as your stats and gearing though, primary is always Intellect, gives you some spell power, gives you a little bit of crit rating, and then Mastery, because it buffs our Illuminated Healing. Again, okay, so our Mastery is your healing also place an absorb on the target for 21% of the amount healed, lasting 15 seconds. 21% is also X. It just scales up or down based on your Mastery, and it does not trigger from healing caused by Beacon. The reason we don't really like crit, doesn't do anything for us. So if we have this nice high Mastery and we have Eternal Flame, we're getting a nice bubble and a hot at the same time. That's why we love this. It's preventative too. Megara, throw down a Holy Radiance, boom, look at that Illuminated Healing, get that Holy Shock nice and high. We're preventing damage and doing a lot of outgoing healing at the same time like we want to. And then after that, obviously it doesn't really matter. Haste and crit both aren't that good. People that are in higher gear are going for the 3506 haste rating to get the extra tick from Eternal Flame. This tune, obviously, I'm at what, 497, not high enough to go for that yet. And then gymming. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. If you're newly dinged 90 like this tune basically is, and you're still going for a little bit of spirit, because I don't have a legendary meta gem on this tune, obviously. I need some spirit, right? So blue sockets, we're going for the Sparkling River's Heart, which is 320 spirit. Yellow, we're going for the Zen Wild Jade, which is 160 spirit, 160 mastery. Red is Purified Imperial Amethyst, 160 spirit, 80 intellect. If you have any other healer that sounds really, really similar to you, you're used to that. And then after we get a little bit more gear, we can interpret more mastery when we're like 515, I'd probably say 515, 520. We can go ahead and just remove all of that, most of that spirit, I guess. In the blue, we'll putting the Zens in there, which is the mastery and the spirit. Yellow, we'll be using straight 320 mastery, and red, we'll be using 80 int and 160 mastery. And then our meta gem, obviously, if the legendary meta gem, go for it. Otherwise, we're going to be using the revitalizing, which is 432 spirit and 3% crit effect, which is nice as always, using the same one every expansion. God damn it. Enchants, all right, pretty simple. Shoulder, the greater crane wing. Cloak, superior int, which is 180 intellect. Chest, stats, if you don't need the spirit. If you need the spirit, go for 200 spirit. Bracer, super intellect, which is 180 int. If you don't have the money, use the mastery one. Gloves, superior mastery. Belt, use your belt buckle. Pants, greater pearlescent, spell thread. And then your feet, Pandaren step, which is very nice. Base 140% mastery, and that miter, 8% movement speed. Alright, and then for weapon, obviously Jade Spirit's going to be better. If it's an alt or you can't really afford it, go for the Windsong. It's really the cheap version. You're cheapo if you use that. Now, as far as gear upgrades, your priority is going to be your weapon, followed by your trinkets, and then your helmet, chest, or your pants. And after that, gloves, shoulders, belts, boots, and then everything else. So again, that's weapon to trinket to helm, chest, pants. Basically, those are the top 5 you're going to want to be upgrading first, because they normally have the highest amount of stats on them over anything else. And obviously your weapons are going to have spell power. Your trinkets are, their proc rates are going to be affected by the upgrades, which is always very, very nice. Now, going to the basic healing technique, put beacon on your tank and then holy shock as much as possible. When there's not much damage, use holy light. If you're trying to get a lot of holy power quickly, you can just sit there and spam divine lights on them if you really want to, and you can handle it. When you're when you see something about to come, like Unseen Strike, Blade Lord, I don't know why I keep going back to this boss, or Megara, whatever, you can get in melee range on Blade Lord. I guess you really can't on Megara. And you're gonna Crusader Strike, you get Holy Power, Eternal Flame. Holy Shock comes off cooldown, Eternal Flame. We can Divine Light our beacon target, Eternal Flame, until we get 10 Eternal Flames up, or as many as you can in 25. Obviously 10 man, you can get all of them. And that's what we really want to be doing as a healer, guys. We want to, just because we can't prevent the damage doesn't mean we shouldn't have a HOT up there and healing him exactly when the damage happens, right? Because it could save somebody's life to have that HOT ticking as the damage is happening, right? We don't want to sit there and wait till after it's happened to use the HOT. That's a no-no. We don't want to be doing that. It's a bad play style if you're doing that. Now, when everybody's stacked up for AoE damage, obviously Holy Radiance, and use your Daybreak proc so we can get that splash damage. Light's Hammer, Light of Dawn for strong burst healing, etc., etc. Now, there are a couple different things. Some people think that it's better to use Eternal Flame when you're AoE healing instead of using Light of Dawn. It's really situational. So if I'm on Megara 10 man, why do I keep going to this fight? I don't know. If I'm healing with a Resto Shaman and a Disc Priest, raid's not going to get below 40-50% at all. No. Ever. So it may be more efficient for me to sit there and Eternal Flame spam if the raid's above 80%, because I'm just wasting Light of Dawn procs if everybody's above, 90%. And so that'll put a HOT on them, obviously, as well as that absorb from our mastery, and it'll keep them alive, and that's all we really care about. And then obviously you're gonna interweave your cooldowns as you need them, and Light of Dawn as you need your mana, etc. So I hope this guide helped you guys. Yeah, pretty much. If you haven't seen the disc guides, go ahead and check those out if you also play a Discipline Priest. But for now, I guess I'm gonna peace out. Little update, my Shaman 86 should be 90 soon. Gonna have one of every healing class. Got it almost there, just waiting on the Shaman to get to 90. and we'll be able to pump out guides for every healing class. We've got some really general healing guides going out for advanced healing, basic healing, how to apply to a guild as a healer, etc, 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 etc. So make sure you stay subscribed, you comment if you like this, comment if you don't like this, dislike it, like it, all that good stuff. Share this with your buds, your mates, your pals, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.
Summon U.S. Illidan.